You have learned a lot about the PSID families, family units, and family listings. Some of what we'll cover in this presentation is a recap of that information, but we will expand on what it means that we're interested in families. Like all families, those in the PSID sample are complete with complicated, messy relationships. You will learn to be aware and sensitive to many kinds of situations, not only so you can apply the PSID rules and get good data, but also in order to maintain a positive experience for each family member. Remember that the PSID focuses on the family unit, not the housing unit. Sometimes certain people living within the physical dwelling place are not included in the family unit. This is very important to keep in mind. You complete a family listing, not a household listing like you may be familiar with from other studies. No one is ever deleted from the family listing. They only move out. Even though we interview individuals, the focus is not on those individuals, but those individuals as part of a family unit. In order to maintain the sample, we focus on the followable persons in the FU. This keeps the project growing from generation to generation. As members of sample families grow up, move out, and form their own economically independent households, they are split off and interviewed separately, increasing the overall number of interviews conducted each wave. We follow those who have the PSID gene. The original sample families were selected in 1968, and new sample families were selected in 1997, 1999, and 2017, 2019 to represent families who have moved to the U.S. since the last sample selection. Everyone who was in the family in the year of the sample selection became a sample member. The lineal descendants, through birth or adoption, of the original or immigrant sample members are sample members as well. They all have the PSID sample gene, which they pass on to their children and their children's children. Those with the gene have a follow status of yes. You will not determine follow status. It is pre-assigned by study staff. You can check the follow status of the pre-listed FU members on their 68 ID listing and in the respondent profile. Families change from wave to wave of data collection, and the data collected each wave updates the family changes. Many things can happen in 2 to 4 years. Let's now review interview types, which are also referred to as cover sheets. Re-interviews were last interviewed 2 years ago. Interviewing the same families over multiple repeated waves is what makes PSID successful. Re-interviews have the highest response rate, and because they were interviewed before, they are usually the easiest cover sheets to administer, unless there are reference person, spouse, or partner changes. Recontacts were last interviewed 4 years ago. Recons are often more challenging than re-interviews. For some reason, they were not interviewed the previous wave. They may have gone into the locating process and we didn't find them. Usually we know we have located them, but we just couldn't reach them. Maybe they were just too busy. There also may have been a final refusal in the previous wave, and we are giving them another chance. A recontact could also be a split-off from 2019 that we were not able to reach because they were generated very late in the field, and we were not able to call them at all. A recontact respondent is offered a higher token of appreciation because we want to bring them back and because their interview will probably be longer. Split-offs are brand new, never interviewed cases. Split-offs are important because a followable person who moves out becomes a new PSID family and guarantees that the sample continues to grow and bring in the younger generations. Split-off interviews are often longer because there is a lot of baseline data to collect. This is the reason they receive a higher token of appreciation. If a split-off line is generated from a completed recon interview, then we have a split recon, which is the fourth and least common interview type. You will work these cover sheets similarly to split-offs. Remember that both recontact and split-off FUs are considered potential FUs for 2021. Depending on what you learn when you contact the respondent, you will either complete these interviews or reincorporate these FUs into other cover sheets. Families contain intricate webs of relationships. Due to the focus on families and maintaining good relationships with the families, the PSID is unlike other SRC projects you may have worked on in the past. Preparation is the key to success. You should never sit down to work a family without knowing who is your target person. Who are they in relation to everyone else in the 68 ID? What is the information you are seeking and how are you going to obtain it? Think of these families as a complex puzzle, and you need information from many pieces to see or understand the full picture. Most of the puzzle pieces are in the respondent profile. Phone numbers, contact people, people who have helped locate the family in the past, problems from the past wave, how many calls were made, and what the past wave's interviewers can tell you in the call notes and interview observations. There may be important updates from the study staff you need to be aware of. As you will learn in the 68 ID site presentation, you will use that site to review information about the entire 68 ID as you work it. That site will include both profiles and information as it's updated during production. Let's go through the profile in more detail, as it'll provide many pieces of information that can help you reach members of the family and handle difficult situations. First, a very small number of sample lines have special high alert notes in the R profile. There are only 11 such SIDs, all assigned to for special handling. Still, because of case transfers, it's good for all of you to know these notes exist. You'll always be reviewing the respondent profiles prior to making any contact attempts. However, because it's so critical that you not overlook these high alert notes, we've preloaded these SIDs with a special note in case notes. High alert flags may indicate a sensitive situation or a request from the data processing team that the interviewer handle the family listing in a particular way. Do not limit yourself to only looking at issues based on these notes, however. The profiles often contain useful information, tipping you off to more common situations that being aware of can help you address. In your participant workbook, you will find an example respondent profile. Please familiarize yourself with all of the elements of the profile. Next, we wanted to talk about some of the contextual information you might find in our profiles and how it can be used to help you work the family lines. Matriarch is the term we informally use to describe the role played by one key member of certain 68 IDs. Our PSID matriarchs often have been in the study for a long time and are proud to be part of the FES. Because they are long-time participants in the study, they may have a SID ending in 001 or 002. They are knowledgeable about FES and know where other members of the family are located. In fact, going through them may be the only way you're able to reach other family members. They often will be the locators for family members and will receive a locator token for each one. In other words, they know how this works. They will also encourage others in the extended family to participate. Because the matriarchs are long-term participants, we also need to be aware that they are aging, so from wave to wave, they may not be as helpful as in the past. Ideally, this role will pass to future generations too. When possible, it's very helpful to identify a matriarch or study ally in the family and to protect and cultivate his or her relationship with the study. Our 2017-2019 new sample may not yet have someone fulfilling this ally role, but we should be on the lookout for family members who seem interested and might serve as advocates for their family's long-term participation. We hear about many things while doing the PSID interviews. Respondents dealing with serious illness and death, which may be more prevalent this wave due to the pandemic. Families take care of aging and dying parents or other family members. We have even experienced family members who have been murdered by other family members. All of these situations can trickle down and impact the entire 68 ID. You should show compassion and don't push it in these situations. You may tell them that you will try to contact them later after things settle down. But they may also tell you not to contact them at all. Document all of this in your call record and discuss with the team leader, who will help you decide next steps. Even when the tragedy is not in one particular family or SID, the situation may be something that comes up with other members of the extended family, and you should always be sensitive. If you push too hard with any member of an extended family, news travels and you may impact participation of other family members. You will also find documented in your profile information about family members who don't get along or more serious estrangements. Knowing about these situations in advance will keep you from asking about the other family member, for instance, someone who you are trying to locate. Protecting the confidentiality of family members should always be on your mind. You are allowed to use family members to locate other study families. However, you always need to tread carefully, and reading your profile will help you understand why confidentiality is so important. Here are 3 fictionalized but true-to-life examples. One SID includes a male reference person who is the father of followable children on another SID. The R for that SID is the ex-wife. The profile tells you not to discuss the second family with any other person in the 68 ID. The profile tells you that in the 2015 wave, they were hiding from him because of abuse and stalking. We didn't get an interview in 2017, but convinced them to return to the study in 2019, but only with the promises of complete confidentiality. The note in the profile can be very specific, saying something like you should not give out any information about them whatsoever, including whether they participate in the study. If you cannot locate them, you may not ask for help from any other family member. You can only use the CPs that have been provided to you directly by the ex-wife. In the next example, in one wave the respondent told her interview that she had a serious illness, which the interview noted in the call record. The next wave, a new interviewer had this case, who read the profile and decided to use that information to build rapport with the respondent. Maybe she asked how the R was doing after her treatment. The respondent was very upset that this private information was revealed, and she refused to participate. You could imagine how this could have a ripple effect through the family and could impact their own participation. In the third example, in attempting to locate a re-interview respondent who was a split-off last wave, you first call his mom. She indicates that she does not know where he is located or have a phone number for him. After interviewing his aunt, you inquire whether she has his current number. Her response? No, but you should really check with his mom. She would know. This situation is very tricky because your reaction could inadvertently reveal private information from one family member to another. It is not our place to reveal to the aunt that the mother has lost contact with her son. In this case, your best response is something simple like, "Thank you." PSID family members move around from wave to wave and during the data collection period. There are a myriad of scenarios that make our jobs interesting. First, remember, though, that if a family member is just visiting another when you happen to call, this is not a move and the visitor should not be listed at all in the family listing. Only people living in the housing unit should ever be listed. However, you should ask for the updated contact info if the visitor is a member of another cover sheet. When someone has moved into the housing unit, You will need to scan your 68 ID listing and probe to find out who they are, and then list them as either FU, HUX, or HU based on the PSID rules. On FES, we think about FU movers out as falling into one of three mutually exclusive categories. The first, FU members who move out on their own are, by definition, not living with another FES family or with another family that's not in the FES. A good example of this is a grown child moving out of their parents' home and setting up their own household, either by themselves or a partner spouse. In the second example, other family members move from one FU to another in the same 68 ID. You will identify such situations by reviewing the 68 ID site. These are the trickiest situations, so let's take a moment to talk about the possibilities. FU members moving from one FU to another in the same 68 ID may qualify the moving FU member for HUX status on the cover sheet of the FES family they moved into. For example, if a single reference person on a re-interview cover sheet is found to have moved in to live with another FES family, she will be listed as HUX on that cover sheet. Or, when a whole existing FES FU on a re-interview cover sheet is found to have moved in with another FES FU on a re-interview cover sheet, you have a HUX situation. You can think of this as a whole, fully formed, established FU moving into the same HU with another whole, fully formed, established FU. However, you may sometimes find a situation in which an OFM, for example, a child, from one FES cover sheet will move into another FES FU. This is entirely different. The OFM does not have their own CS. You will move that person out of one FU and in as FUMI on the other. If you encounter a situation you don't know how to handle, please gather all the detail you can and then contact your TL for instructions on next steps. The last category is simple. When a mover out moves in with another family not in FES, this means they have not set up their own household and are not living independently. Usually these are children moving in with a relative who is not in the study. We will still follow them as split-offs if they have the PSID gene. When you find that whole FUs have moved back in together, the type of cover sheet is an important consideration. We always want to keep the re-interview cover sheet. It is the first level cover sheet in the hierarchy. When you contact a split-off and find that they have moved back in with a re-interview family, you code out the split-off cover sheet. This should be an easy decision because the re-interview cover sheet will almost always be the interview from which the split-off was generated. You can think of these as split-offs that didn't really stick. For example, we thought the adult child was splitting off, but he moved back home and will be reflected on the original FU in next wave's interview. However, if you find a recon family unit living with a split-off, the recon line should be coded out and you should take the interview on the split-off line. Recon cover sheets are lowest in the hierarchy. When you have recon cover sheets in your family, it is best to do the re-interviews in those families first, whenever possible. If the recon is living with a re-interview family or a split-off family, the recon cover sheet will be coded out as reunited family. If you do contact the recon first and find out they are living with the re-interview family, don't continue with the recon interview at that time, but discuss the situation with your team leader. Finally, families move, and sometimes they move to another country. Wherever they go, we will try to interview them. This is a list of countries where our sample members have resided in some past waves. When interviewing an FU overseas, be prepared to interview at a time convenient for the respondent, and note if a translator was needed for previous interviews. If you find that a family has moved overseas since last wave, please contact your TL, as we may want to modify your cell phone plan to make calling abroad more affordable. The PSID interview is translated into Spanish, and we have bilingual interviewers on the team who will receive that sample when it's released in April. However, we have sample members who speak many languages. Sometimes their families will translate for them. At times, we will pay a translator to help them, and in some situations, we will identify another interviewer fluent in that language who can help. If you encounter a family that speaks a language other than English or Spanish and should be contacted and interviewed in that language, please speak to your team leader. In summary, unlike studies where we are most concerned with finding the correct respondent and interviewing them, on PSID we are interested in the entire family unit. The respondent should be the person who knows the most about the family's finances, and the respondent can change from wave to wave. The PSID families are like all families. They are complicated. From wave to wave, there can be large changes, such as divorce or death, or small ones like new cell phones that impact data collection. Families also face personal challenges, and they will not feel that completing the PSID interview is as important as we do. But we have a long data collection period and can be patient. The PSID families also move around. Each wave, about a fourth of them need to go into the location process, at least for a while. But the good news for us is that they continue to participate year after year after year. That is what makes the PSID challenging, but is also what makes PSID unique and such an interesting project to work on.